So Warzone Mobile did drop, and I want to give my initial impressions. Obviously, this content that I normally make is regarding Warzone on console and PC, and I don't really see that changing, but I thought I'd give some initial impressions because it seems like there's some confusion around Warzone Mobile and kind of what it's all about. It's a free-to-play version of Warzone 2 for Verdansk and Rebirth Island that is available on mobile devices, whether it's an iPad, a phone, a tablet, something along those lines. Overall, it's great because there is a shared ecosystem. So if you play on there while you're traveling, on a bus, wherever, that progress carries over to your main account. So if you need to level up a gun, if you want to gain XP, if you want to do specific challenges, that might actually be even easier on mobile. For me personally, I'm not a touchscreen fan to kind of put my fingers on there and kind of move around. I just not good at that, especially at 36 years old now. My hands don't even really position in that way where it's comfortable for an extended period of time without probably cramping. Great that it has controller support, whether it's a PS5, Xbox controller, wired or Bluetooth, or even using a backbone, which is pretty nice. It is missing a ton of settings. It doesn't have tap to interact, auto attack sprint. It's missing a ton of features, dead zones, whatever. But for the vast majority, expectation wise, it is a pretty solid mobile game, and the graphics and performance are generally really good on iOS devices. From what I saw from early reviews, I didn't get a chance to try it on Android, but apparently it doesn't really perform that well on Android. And that was pretty much expected, so that's kind of unfortunate, but it is what it is. I was able to wire it through my HDMI, and that's kind of how I got the footage that you're seeing here. This was from a live stream. Obviously, my camera is going over my gameplay from that. We played for about 4 or 5 hours. There was some inconsistency with connectivity, which is kind of expected on a brand new day. Other people I talked to, maybe just because where you're at regionally, maybe the connectivity wouldn't be that good. But I was able to figure out a HUD that looked good and that what I'm used to for controller. And then I was able to dial in the controller settings. So I felt like I shot fairly straight, even though the dead zone situations there where your aim does feel wonky. In terms of the gameplay, it feels like Warzone 2, which is not a good thing. Unfortunately, the buy station is $20,000 for a loadout and quad. It scales based off your squad size. Nearly every update that was made to Warzone 3 or the new Urzikstan version of the game, it basically didn't carry over to this. We don't have portable buys. We don't have the little balloons or portable redeployment drones. We don't have any of the tokens. The loots aren't, the perks aren't lootable. Some attachments are missing, or at least bugged out where you have to equip the aftermarket part to use like the glassless or something like that. The perks, you're not able to customize them, and then the Warzone 2 perks. So you kind of have like quick fix in the tier 3 slot, the ultimate perk. It's using that MW2 like created class, which is kind of whack. In my opinion, I didn't enjoy that game at all. The floor loot is kind of bad. They use a lot of these MW2 guns with small mags. On the bigger map, you do get a little bit more flexibility on being able to maneuver, loot up, get your loadout. They are using Warzone 1 contracts, so that's supply runs, recons that work and function the same way they did before. And it's just nice to play on those old maps. Obviously, one of the biggest feedbacks is that it looks like a mobile game. Well, duh, it is a mobile game. But on top of that, why don't they bring Verdansk and Rebirth Island over to the console and PC versions of the game? They will. But like, under my understanding is that we'll probably get a blog this week. We'll probably get some patch notes or a roadmap or something along those lines that'll say that Rebirth is either coming in season 3 or mid-season update or something along those lines with season 3. In terms of Verdansk, most people kind of expect that it'll drop when the new integration typically happens with the Treyarch game later this year, probably November, December. It may come sooner if the game needs it or they feel like they need it on their end or it's finished or whatever. But I think that's kind of when you're going to expect it. So if you wanted to kind of just feel what those maps are like on a mobile version, it's great once you get all the settings dialed in. I could do probably a video following up on the best settings that I found for controller in terms of getting the HUD dialed in and the settings so that you can rebind and do flip triggers, even though the game doesn't really allow that, be able to set it up properly. I think when it comes to Resurgence, it's cool. It was a lot of fun to play Rebirth Island again. One of the biggest problems is because I was playing quads, loadout is 20 grand. 20 grand, you get it eventually from getting kills and stuff like that, but not like you could off the rip. That was one of the best parts of Rebirth, was where you're able to land, loot a couple chests, get your loadout, and then go for kills, and then eventually the win. This doesn't really work like that because 20K is quite a bit, especially with randoms. And then the free loadout drops like zone 4 or something like that. So the match is mostly halfway over by that point, and then it gets kind of contested. So it's a little bit wonky. FOV is maxed out at 90, which is probably not that big a deal if you're playing on a phone because it has more of a horizontal layout or landscape. When it comes to playing on a tablet or iPad, which is what I played on, you end up with the square 4x3 dimensions, and it feels like you are much more narrow than even 80 FOV sometimes. It's just kind of how it works. I think occasionally this is something that you could play in addition to the normal Battle Royale and Resurgence that we have with Vondel, Urzikstan, Fortune's Keep, Ranked, all that stuff. Cool. You'll probably play that 99% of the time. But like, let's say you go to do a function, you're waiting in line, you're doing something where you got to burn some time. You go to the airport and you're waiting for a couple hours, whatever. This could be something that you play, get a quick match in, have some fun with it. Whether you want to use the touch with your thumb and fingers, or you want to just play with the controller, you're going to have that flexibility. To my understanding, if you play on an emulator, you do have a risk of getting your account banned. So I would probably avoid that, even though that would probably give you a great experience. It's probably not that great. Overall, it looks like the reviews on this is like, why would anyone play this? It's okay if you're not that target demographic. I'm not really the target demographic either. I'm not one who lives on my phone or anything like that. I'll be on Twitter, on my computer, or whatever. Generally, when I leave, that's it. I'm not really on my phone all that much when I'm out and about. I'm just doing whatever I need. And when I'm back home, I'll play on my PC or I'll play on my PS5. And those offer everything I need. So this is really like a niche thing that I did to kind of play it, check it out so I can give a little bit of my first impressions. Especially since, you know, a lot of people are going to have questions about where this fits in. Again, this is something you can just do in addition to what you already do. And I think it's just kind of cool. It just comes out like a year late because this probably should have came out with Warzone 2 so that when Warzone 3 came out, it would fix all those issues. But it feels like you're going back in the past and playing Warzone 2, which played terribly, but on pretty cool nostalgic maps like Rebirth Island and Verdansk. Let me know, what is your guys' experience with it? What's your platform? If you'd like to see a settings guide for both controller and the HUD, I can go ahead and help out with that. If not, no biggie. Again, no worries. Appreciate the support. Thank you for watching. As always, have a great day.